It started like any other business flight: calm skies, polite chatter, the steady hum of the engines. But by the time the wheels touched down, an entire plane full of passengers sat in stunned silence, after witnessing one man's unforgettable act of courage. Meet Michael Carter, a Harvard-educated lawyer, dressed in a sharp navy suit, gold watch glinting under the cabin lights. He'd boarded Flight 326 from Chicago to New York, first-class ticket in hand, briefcase neatly tucked under his seat. But not long after takeoff, whispers began. Then came the look. You know the one, the kind that quietly says you don't belong here. Minutes later, a passenger complained. Then a flight attendant leaned over Michael's seat and said the words that would ignite a firestorm across social media. "Sir, are you sure you're in the right seat?" Michael's calm smile never wavered. But his next words, and what he did after, would silence everyone on board and expose a deep, painful truth about prejudice at 30,000 feet. This wasn't just another uncomfortable encounter. What unfolded next would end up changing the policy of an entire airline, and leave every single passenger on that plane questioning themselves. Stay till the end, because when Michael finally stood up and revealed who he really was, the truth hit harder than anyone expected. The morning was crisp and clear when Michael Carter walked through Chicago O'Hare's Terminal B, rolling his black Samsonite luggage behind him. He was on his way to New York for a high-profile case, defending a group of minority entrepreneurs suing a powerful corporation for discriminatory practices. At 42, Michael had built a reputation as one of the most relentless civil rights attorneys in the country. He wasn't just smart, he was strategic, calm under pressure, and known for turning words into weapons. His mother used to tell him, "Son, when the world doubts your place at the table, build your own." He smiled, remembering her, as he handed his first-class boarding pass to the gate agent. "Good morning, Mr. Carter," she said with a polite smile. "Seat 2A. Enjoy your flight." As he entered the cabin, he noticed the curious stares, that subtle flicker of disbelief that followed him sometimes in certain spaces. He sat down, pulled out his laptop, and started reviewing his notes. Then, a white couple boarded. The husband, mid-50s, frowned slightly when he saw Michael in 2A. He looked at his wife and muttered something under his breath. She whispered back, but the glance she gave Michael spoke volumes. Moments later, the man leaned over to the flight attendant and said something quietly. The attendant, a young woman named Heather, nodded and approached Michael's seat. "Excuse me, sir," she began softly. "Can I see your boarding pass?" Michael raised an eyebrow. "Of course." He handed it to her. She looked at it, then looked back at him. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. This seat is for first class." He tilted his head slightly. "Yes, I know. That's why I purchased it." Heather's cheeks flushed. "Oh, right. I just wanted to double-check." Michael smiled politely. "Of course. Always good to double-check." But the damage was done. Several passengers were already watching. The man who'd complained earlier muttered, "Probably upgraded by mistake." Michael heard him, but said nothing. He just adjusted his tie and returned to his notes. As the plane took off, the tension grew. Every time Heather passed by, she avoided his gaze. The couple in the next row kept whispering and chuckling. Finally, during meal service, the husband made a snide remark loud enough for half the cabin to hear. "Crazy how anyone can just buy a seat these days." Michael looked up slowly. "Yes," he said evenly. "It's called progress." That single sentence silenced the man for a moment. But the quiet didn't last. Midway through the flight, the husband called Heather over again. "I'm uncomfortable," he said. "That man keeps staring at me." Michael blinked, incredulous. "Staring at you?" "I've been reading." Heather shifted awkwardly. "Sir, maybe you could switch seats just to keep the peace?" Michael leaned back, eyes cold. "So let me get this straight. He makes a false accusation, and your solution is to move me?" The cabin fell silent. Heather stammered. "It's just..." He raised a hand. "It's fine. I'll stay right here." Then he added quietly, "And you should get your captain on the line. Because what's happening right now? It's called racial discrimination." Heather froze. "Sir, please." Michael's voice stayed calm but carried the weight of authority. "Do you know what I do for a living?" She shook her head. "I'm a civil rights attorney. I've spent the last 15 years holding corporations accountable for exactly this kind of behavior." The husband scoffed. "Oh, come on, now you're playing the race card?" Michael turned to him, his tone sharp but measured. "No, sir. I'm calling it by name." A murmur spread through the cabin. People shifted uncomfortably. Phones began recording. Heather, realizing the situation was escalating, called the head purser. Minutes later, a senior attendant arrived, Laura, calm and professional. "What seems to be the issue here?" she asked. Heather explained nervously. "There was a misunderstanding about the seat. Then, some tension." Laura turned to Michael. "Mr. Carter, I'm so sorry if you were made to feel uncomfortable." Michael nodded slightly. "Appreciated. Though I think the word uncomfortable might be too gentle." Laura looked from him to the other passenger. "Sir, did you say something inappropriate?" The man shrugged. "I just asked a question. Didn't know lawyers came from." He stopped himself, but it was too late. Everyone had heard. Laura's tone hardened. "Sir, that's enough." Michael looked straight ahead, not dignifying it with a response. But in his mind something clicked. He decided that when they landed, this wouldn't end quietly. The rest of the flight was icy. Heather avoided him completely. The husband pretended to sleep. The passengers who'd stayed silent before were now whispering, debating what they'd seen. No one knew that Michael had already begun documenting everything. The airport security office was sterile and cold. Jamal sat with his hands cuffed, heart pounding. He couldn't believe what was happening. A young officer entered. "Sir, we're reviewing footage from the flight." "Good," Jamal said bitterly. "Because it'll show exactly what happened." He wasn't wrong. Meanwhile, outside, the story was already breaking. Passengers had uploaded videos online with captions like, "Black doctor saves man's life, gets arrested for helping." Within hours it exploded. Millions of views. Hashtags, #DrRivers, #Let Doctors Help, and #Racism in the Skies began trending. Back inside, an airline manager arrived, pale, sweating. "Dr. Rivers, we owe you an apology." He held up a tablet showing the security footage. It clearly captured the entire incident, Amanda blocking him, passengers pleading, then her false report. Jamal stared at the screen silently. The manager's voice trembled. "The man you treated, Mr. Paul Daniels, he's stable now. The hospital confirmed you saved his life." Jamal exhaled slowly. "And yet I'm the one in handcuffs." The officer looked ashamed. "We'll fix this right away." Moments later, the cuffs came off. Cameras waited outside the door. Reporters shouted questions. Jamal didn't say much, just one sentence that echoed across every news station that night. "Being black should never make me suspicious for saving a life." The airline scrambled to respond. They issued a statement calling it an unfortunate misunderstanding. But the public wasn't having it. Passengers from the flight came forward in interviews, defending him. One said, "He was calm the whole time. The only one acting aggressive was the crew." Within 24 hours, the airline's stock dipped. Sponsors demanded answers. Amanda was suspended pending investigation. But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, the hospital where Jamal worked held a press conference. His colleagues stood beside him in solidarity, doctors, nurses, even patients he'd saved. Dr. Rivers stepped to the podium. His voice was calm, but his words cut deep. "I didn't save that man to prove I'm a good doctor. I saved him because that's what a doctor does. But when my skin color makes people question my profession, that's not a misunderstanding, that's a sickness." The crowd applauded. Reporters wiped tears. Within a week, the airline's CEO personally called him to apologize. But Jamal wasn't interested in PR statements. he said. "Don't apologize to me. Change your system." And he meant it. Over the next few months, the airline partnered with national organizations to mandate bias training for all employees. They created a medical emergency policy ensuring all qualified professionals, regardless of race, could assist without harassment. But the most powerful moment came when Jamal reunited with the man he saved, Paul Daniels. Paul, still recovering, hugged him tightly during a live TV interview. "You didn't just save my life," he said. "You saved my faith in humanity." Jamal smiled softly. "Then maybe it was worth it." As the interview aired, a clip of Amanda surfaced. She had resigned from the airline and joined a nonprofit focused on diversity education. When asked why, she said, "I saw what my fear almost cost, a man's life. I'll never let that happen again." Jamal never responded publicly to her apology. Instead, he continued his mission, traveling, speaking, and inspiring young black medical students with one message: never let anyone make you sit down when you're meant to stand up. And the line that stuck with everyone came from his final speech at the conference he almost missed. "Racism didn't stop me from saving a man's life. But one day, I hope it stops someone from losing theirs." Sometimes, the hardest battles aren't fought in hospitals or courtrooms. They're fought in silence, in the moments when doing the right thing is seen as a threat. Dr. Jamal Rivers didn't just save a life that day. He exposed a truth too many people ignore. That bias can kill, not just the body, but the spirit. If this story opened your eyes, hit subscribe right now. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that kindness should never depend on color. Comment below. What would you have done if you saw what happened on that flight? Would you have spoken up? Because silence isn't neutral, it's permission. And remember, heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear scrubs. Dr. Rivers didn't need validation. He had something stronger: truth. And the world will never forget what he did 35,000 feet above the ground.